Good morning, everybody. This is Christy. I am the Intimate Warrior. I thank you so much for stopping by, and as always, I send you love. So in today's video, I am going to be talking about the Sun in Pisces, which is coming up on February the 18th, in just a few days. Now, I'm going to do my best to really get this out and try to make sense of everything that I have been given and what has been taking place. So, going back a month or so, even 2 months maybe, I began talking about the sacred marriage, the union between masculine and feminine energies. And of course, we are always creating or attempting to create balance within these areas of our lives. But sometime in December, I think it was right after Christmas, after the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction, I made that video about the sacred marriage. I think it was labeled maybe silver and gold or something like that. I can't really remember. So that's how far back we had to go to make this union, kind of. Like I've explained, we tap into a center, and then there's that period of learning. The Sun in Pisces is a significant time. Well, everything is significant. So please don't see anything else as insignificant as well, from what I just explained there, or expressed. And if I get a little tongue-tied or seem confused today, it is because I'm feeling a little loopy in my head today. And I woke up fine. Everything. It's because of what I am doing now with this video. Keep in mind, when something resonates with us, creates that spark, it means that it's talking to our soul, our deepest part of our soul, and making a connection with spirit. When that takes place, internal triggers, or even internal spasms can take place. And this is just my own phrasing to kind of make sense of things, where those connections begin to come online. And here I am about to cry. If it doesn't make sense to you, it's not a part of your genetic makeup. Yet, in order to know that it is a part of your genetic makeup, you really have to step outside of your comfort zone, of those boundaries that we have put up, that this world has taught us to forget about. To remove the illusion that things are, the life that we feel is true is really untrue. We have to get uncomfortable. Sometimes it takes reading something differently and seeing how we feel when we are reading that. Some parts might make us question things. Some parts might give us chills. Some parts might give us fear, and some parts might give us peace. Each part is connecting with us at a deeper level. And we should try to understand that anything that doesn't reflect love isn't true, because God is love. God is love. He is the greatest, most powerful, most true thing that exists. He, and look at me, I'm saying he, please excuse me. God is all. God is all and everything, and is not a man. He is every. So I'm just going to stop talking because about God here, because I'm going to go back to he, and I'm not trying to do that. God is a powerful force. So when we're thinking in terms of the sun in Pisces, when you have Pisces, you have the two fish. And in some images, you will see that Neptune is holding the two fish within his grasp. Neptune, in relationship to the tree of life, is at the very top of the tree of life. The very top. Where source is. Where all is. This is the light. Of course, the sun is also separate within the tree of life. The sun is in relationship to the heart. Not the sacred heart, but the heart. Pisces, when you go back throughout history, it takes you back to the days of Christ. Christ separated the waters. Moses separated the waters. There was a division between masculine and feminine energy. And that's also a representation of yin and yang, or that balance symbol in other cultures. The fish is in relationship because you always have an upper and a lower. You always have an up and a down, or above and below, a higher and a lower area. And I said that twice, so excuse me. Pisces is in relationship to the pineal gland. The pineal gland emits the light to the pituitary gland. So the pituitary gland will not function properly. You will not be able to see visible light without the pineal gland working properly. When you go back to ancient civilizations, either Atlantis, Lemuria, even Egypt, those civilizations had full functioning inner vision. Yet they fell, which means Neptune. They ceased to keep up with the laws of Neptune. When we also look in the Bible, it is mentioned in Genesis that you can see God face to face. Of course, they have it pronounced or spelled Peniel, Peniel, which means face of God. Now, so in order for the monad to become impregnated, like I have already explained in my video about my own personal experience previously, now is actually going to be taking place astrologically. The seed must receive the light, that spark from creation, the Christ from within. So if you are finding understanding now that because the sun now is in Pisces, you have, like I explained in another video, 3 areas where the seed can become impregnated here. The solar plexus, the sacred heart, and the pineal gland. These areas receive the major upgrades, the solar seed that gives you a perfected monad, a perfected being. So that is, in a sense, what is taking place at this time, or is trying to, because we still have to be the one who is doing the work. And that means that we are transmuting lower vibrational emotions, which is allowing the internal light and flame to rise properly to the point that everything can move towards the crown in its proper timing and illuminate the brain, and that secretion can then flow back down into the spine, where it kind of allows now that serpent energy to go back down to its little swirl and dormancy, because you have created the perfected being from within. The purpose of, again, the Kundalini energy is to purify, to awaken all areas and centers of our monad. When the spirit is finally living within you, there's no need for that, because now it is the spirit who is functioning and working and moving you, instead of the purification process, which is already complete. They actually become one instead of separate entities, if you will. So keep in mind, when we are living within that separation, which is under the veil, we are living as 2 beings within our body. It's the masculine and the feminine who is living separately. There is no union there. You do not know the self. You're living here within duality. And it takes that, again, the transmutation of merging, of learning to know yourself, and trusting in everything that you are going through as your guidance system. A man, know thyself, and thou wilt know the universe and the gods. And it even says, when we are thinking in terms of a baptism, we have been taught to believe that a baptism is a wiping away of sins, that because we are all sinners. But being a form of creation, we are already forgiven. So, and that's what the Bible also speaks about as well, which doesn't make sense. There's two conflicting things here. Now, a baptism, if you learn and go deeper, what's taking place within you, in order to become baptized, and I mean spiritually baptized, you are looking within, and you yourself are removing things that do not belong within you, that you have been carrying. That is what the true concept of sin is. The things that we burden ourselves with. The things that we lack knowing of ourselves from within. When we physically make that conscious choice to go within and cleanse ourselves, we are beginning the process of the baptism, that the Holy Spirit will come down and actually perform, and it will become a physical act. And that is what it is to know yourself. To truly know yourself is to go within and do all of the work that is necessary to bring yourself awareness of all that you are. And there is a Chinese proverb that says, those who understand others are intelligent. Those who understand themselves are enlightened. Those who overcome others have strength. Those who overcome themselves are powerful. This is the true meaning of enlightenment and power, which is spoken about within the baptism. Which a baptism, what takes place in a baptism is that you are being, water is being poured upon you. Water is essential here for everything. When we're talking about water, though, water is also in alchemy, if you will, the sexual waters of impurity. Yet, that same impurity, when it becomes baptized, is the water of holiness. Same thing, completely transformed from that human limited individual, completely transformed into the spiritual being that we all are. And in order for that to do, it has to rise. We have to rise. We have an opposite of every single thing. We can have a lower mind, which is going to be a representation of our sexual regions. We are choosing our own selfish desires to not go within, to choose to continuously look outside of us, to separate all things. Or we can choose our higher mind by focusing within our inner soul and being, that heart connection, and allowing everything to become illuminated. And so, I know this really, you guys know how I do things. And I probably will try to do another video tomorrow in terms of the astrological interpretation of how things are playing out with the sun in Pisces. Now, I have had another period of, let me see, go back to my notes. Almost silence, really. I mean, a few things are coming to me, but compared to what I'm usually given, it's almost a silence period again. And of course, this is for myself to be expected because I am, again, as well as others are upgrading in a faster rate now, and will continue to do so. We are all learning quicker, understanding, faster. We are believing more and becoming, and are trusting and stepping more into faith. And that's why things are going to pick up in speed. And I don't know if I ever made this video about it, but it took me an hour to find this, and I finally found it. I ended up rewriting it in my journal, like I had planned on sticking with this year. But now I'm still back at writing on my phone, because I still find that beneficial, where I can just do a search on my notes, and I can put in keywords and bring it up faster than I can go in through my journals and find something. But I ended up deleting it off my phone. After an hour, I realized, oh, I probably wrote it in my journal. So on January the 19th, I actually had the vision of that sacred marriage union. Now, there's going to be a lot of periods of time when, again, we are stepping into creating balance within the divine masculine and the divine feminine. But it's not going to become complete until the wedding is taken place, as well as that sexual union that takes place. Now, within my vision, I knew that my divine masculine and who he was when I saw him. And it was as if I was searching for him my entire life, and at that very moment, I was like, oh my gosh, here you are. This is you. I've never seen you before, but I know this is you. It's exactly how a twin flame union here in our reality can take place, that you can speak to somebody or just come across an individual and know that it is them. And so we were in the church, and although the marriage ceremony took place for myself before this incident, the sacred union didn't take place until January the 19th. And so here we are now, almost a month from this, and it's taking place astrologically. Now, like I said before, we're giving heads up. So I don't know if I made this video about this and placed it in anything. And if I haven't, I'm so sorry about not mentioning that. But so roughly, when I tell you something without having anything astrologically backing it up, it is that forewarning, or that, heads up. Here's what's going to take place. And sometimes it can take place within a few days, but for the most part, there's like a month, sometimes 2 months of waiting for it to actually line up with the stars. Okay, so this has already taken place, or I received this vision, a month ago, and now here we are, and it's taking place physically. So that means that everybody, to a level of readiness, is tapping into this sacred marriage. I hope this video helps, and I apologize for being a little bit everywhere. Like I said, reading what I did this morning is triggering an internal process for myself. And of course, you guys know, when we are experiencing something internally, a side effect can be a result. So what I forgot to mention here in this video, Sun in Pisces, so I am adding this in and going to edit it in. The Sun
is a representation of the gold, and the moon is a representation of the silver, in representation of what takes place chemically within our bodies in terms of receiving the sacred secretion. In terms, again, of the pineal and pituitary glands working together as one union. Again, I want to add that the splitting of Pisces was a representation, or the waters was a representation, again, and maybe I mentioned this already in this video. If I have, I apologize, is a representation of the fall of consciousness, or the step into more ego instead of the heart via the spark and therefore consciousness. And so, being that the sun is a representation of gold, again, the sun is also a representation of spirit, which of course represents the pineal gland and the crown chakra connection there. But remember that the pituitary gland is not full functioning without the pineal gland, and as well as without the crown chakra being fully open and activated. Fully open and activated, and I mean via the crown, when the excuse me, the Kundalini has finally risen out of this. And now I'm glad that I ended up adding this into it. I had meant to make a video about this, but since it's now coming into play via the planets, it's working out beautifully, and I'll just add it into here. In that video of me explaining my own personal experience with the last initiation of the 7 levels of initiations, and what I went through with the death, I expressed that as I jumped into the pool, a boom went out of my crown. As I jumped into the pool, being water, when you combine air in representation of like gas, and then fire, which I already had because my mouth was on fire because I was smoking, and then when you mix, like when you actually have a fire in your house, like an oil fire, because you have placed water, like French fries, into a pot of oil, a hot oil, you create fire. And then whenever you put more water into it to try and put it out, like we always see on that movie on Ridiculousness, we're watching all the time here sometimes. We watch that show, it's silly, but people will actually pour water into oil, and it creates more fire. And that is exactly what actually took place when I jumped into the pool. The escape of the Kundalini finally bursting out of my crown. Now, although I am already working with the higher chakras because of the level of where I am at, your seventh chakra, your crown chakra, even though it's open and working, it isn't functioning the way that it's supposed to, meaning you have not completed that center pillar. Because if you go back to my videos again about Jachin and Boaz, the left and right pillars, you have a central doorway, which is this representation of when Christ walked through, or anybody who walked through those 2 pillars. You are walking through that central pillar, which is your heart connection. Even within your tree of life, you have a center pillar. 3, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And until you have received the permanent seed atom, until you have opened up your thymus gland, until you have received the breath of life via the Alta Major, and made those internal connections, pineal gland, pituitary gland, receive the Holy Grail within, your crown chakra doesn't actually burst until the very end, when you are ready to make more connections and develop the center pillar, and I am going to leave it at that because I'm going to make a separate video in about the center pillar. This is Christy. Much love, health, and healing your way. I am bringing purpose to your life. Take care.